Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So it is now the very end of 2022 and I am just taking the time to sit and really reflect on how my year went. I think something that could be very good for all of us to do, and it doesn't have to be right on the very last day of the year, but really sitting down and writing things that you have accomplished. It can be so easy for us to forget things that we've done and still feel in this place of discouragement and that we're not doing enough, but I found for myself personally that sitting down and writing the things I've accomplished have really helped to make me realize that I really did do a lot this year. Even though I can be hard on myself and say I need to do so much more, I really did do a lot. And it's good to realize that and know that you're growing, because that's very encouraging. So I thought a good idea would be to sit down with you today and kind of talk about all the things that I felt I accomplished towards my goals in 2022, and then talk a little bit about my plans for 2023. So get your warm drink and maybe get yourself some paper for you to start thinking about what you've accomplished this year and what you'd like to accomplish in this next year, and maybe we can sit down and do a little bit of this together. The first thing I want to start off with talking about is I really did have the best garden year I have had yet, and I think that's been a trend every single year since I've started gardening. I can't even really remember how many years it's been now, but I want to say I'm on year 4 or 5 of really gardening, and it has definitely been the best year by far. I had the most growth overall, and I had the most I have ever been able to save to preserve, and that is another thing I've done this year, is starting my preservation journey. I grew enough broccoli so that I could put some up and put it in the freezer. Hey you. And I grew enough tomatoes so that I could make a lot of tomato paste and tomatoes for sauces and chili and stuff like that, and also have enough to eat fresh. And that was my first year being able to do that, so that was very exciting, and I hope to even double or triple that next year. But by far, this has just been the best garden year. I grew so much more than I did the year before, and I am very confident that that trend will continue into this upcoming year. I talked about it a little bit already, but it was my first year trying any kind of preserving. I only did putting stuff up in a freezer this year, but that will change next year. Like I said, I put up a lot of tomato product, and I put up some broccoli in the freezer. I also went to a local strawberry field and harvested a decent amount of strawberries myself so that it would be cheaper, and put a whole bunch of those up in the freezer for smoothies and stuff like that. We went through that very quickly, so I want to do a lot more this next season, but we still did a lot more than the year before. I also got bulk apples when apple picking and put up some apples in the freezer for pies or apple crumbles and stuff like that, so that was a good success. This is my first year ever even trying, let alone preparing multiple times, deer and moose meat, and it was very good. I've never had it before. I don't come from a hunting family, so I've never had the opportunity come across me to try it. However, I am now part of a hunting family and I hope to hunt myself. That is something, I keep spoiling my 2023 list a little bit, but that is something that I would like to get into. And I've also been lucky enough to be able to grab from that freezer whenever I want, and I make both deer steaks and moose hamburger and all kinds of stuff all the time now, and so that's great. I have made my own sourdough starter this year, and I'm so excited to really start getting into sourdough. I was gifted ever so kindly by my mother a beautiful cast iron Dutch oven, and I can't wait to start making breads and stuff in that. It's gonna be so exciting. I am planning on doing a how to start your own sourdough starter video, so keep your eyes out for that, but that is gonna be so exciting. And so I did that for the first time this year. I've also made different herbal remedies. I made elderberry syrup, and I made dandelion salve and different things like that, so that is also exciting. These still feel like homesteading goals kind of to me, to my personal life, but they're a little bit different, but I thought I'd share them here anyway. This year I started my blog that has different recipes and all kinds of good stuff, a lot of the same things that I talk about on the channel. So if you don't know about the blog, I will link it down below, but I started that and I feel like it's going very well. I started this channel. This is a very new channel, and I'm excited to keep making videos on here because I've really been enjoying it and I absolutely love it. I love sharing this kind of life perspective, this kind of lifestyle, and also getting the same back. I love just being part of that community, so that's very exciting. I've also been to 2 craft shows for the first time. If you don't know, I am an artist also. I paint and I also sew, knit, do everything, but I have taken my stuff to 2 art shows, or rather 2 craft shows this year, and I've never done that before. So that's kind of a good ego booster in terms of me being able to do things with the creative side of my slow living type of personality. So that's probably not everything, but like I've said, it can be kind of tricky to look back when you're in the now, to look back to see what you really have accomplished, because we're always, and this is a good thing as well as a bad thing, but we're always just striving for more and to do better, which can be good but can also not be so good because we're not thinking about the things we've already done. We're lacking the gratitude we should have for what we already have accomplished, what we already have. I think that can be an important thing as well, to just write down things you're grateful for. It can be daily, but to be honest, a lot of people, even though it would only take a couple minutes, we don't have the mental capacity to do that every day. So maybe as a weekly thing or even just a monthly thing, just writing down things that you're very grateful for. I think that's a good practice to have. It keeps you remembering that you've already done so much, you've already accomplished so much. And so even if you don't have the next thing yet, not to fret, because you're already in such a good place, you already have so much, and it reminds you that what you have now at one point was something that you were hoping for. So that's a nice little practice. So with that, let's swiftly move into my hopes, my goals that I have for the year of 2023. Now I have lots of these, so I won't say everything, and I'll try to keep it as relevant as I can. But of course, to start out, even bigger and even better garden, always. That's always a goal every single year, is how to make it even better. My plans specifically to do that, I am planning on investing in more grow lights and a big shelf that I can put grow lights on each one of the shelves to be able to start more right from the beginning. I am in Maine and I am in zone 5B, so to really have a good start of the season, I do like to do a lot 6 to 8 weeks beforehand, before the last frost date. Our last frost date here is around May 3rd, which to a lot of people might sound very late, and it is quite late compared to a lot of places. But because of that, I start a lot beforehand, and to be able to have a bigger garden, I need to start more things. So that is plan number 1, is to do that. I am also planning on doing some in-ground beds, and also hoping I might be able to make some more raised beds, because I do personally prefer raised beds. I guess I haven't had enough experience completely with in-ground beds to say that for certain, but so far I do very much prefer raised beds. I like having that control of what's going into the bed and that extra height off the ground, and I like how it looks. So, but we'll see what we do. I want to not only expand the crops I've been doing already, but I want to add more to the mix. I have not yet done onions or potatoes, and so that is definitely something I want to add, since I am a big user of those foods. I could go on and on about the different things I want to add to the garden this year. I want to do flowers, which I always get flowers, but I've never grown flowers from seeds, mainly because of my lack of grow light space, and that the flowers, a lot of the time, to do better, to reach that bloom, a lot of the flowers I'd like to grow would need to be grown from grow lights or just started ahead of time, and I never had the space because I would rather put that towards tomatoes or melons or something like that. So that is something I want to add, but I could list forever. I won't try to get into that. I am planning on doing a seed haul video, which will come not too far from now, because I am already planning and getting my list together, and so we will have those seeds very soon, and I will share them with you. My second big thing I am going to do this year is I'm going to start canning. I have not canned before. It has been a big goal of mine for a few years now to can, and I haven't done it yet. I have a very small kitchen here, so I don't really have much pantry space, but my mother has very kindly told me I can use her basement space for canning, and I am planning on investing in a pressure canner so that I can do all the canning, don't need to worry about the acidity. So the main two things that are my biggest ones, and I hope I do much more, but my biggest things is I'm gonna can my tomato products. I use lots and lots of tomato products. I love tomatoes, I love fresh tomatoes, and I love making my homemade sauces and chilies and whatever else. So that is a big one, and yes, you can always put things in the freezer, but I have very little freezer space, and I want to utilize that space with other things. So canning lots of tomatoes. Second thing I really want to make sure I can up is broth. I want to make my own homemade broth and then can it up for my use, because that is another thing I use a lot, and I'm not a big fan of the extra kinds of things they put in store broths. Really don't need it, can do without. So I'm very looking forward to making broth homemade. I've already been saving my bones and onion peelings and like carrot bits, things like that, for making it, and I plan on having a big broth making day and then canning it all up, and so that it's on my shelves and I can just pull it off and use anytime I want to make a soup or a gravy or anything, and it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait. Of course, I hope to make lots of other things, but those are my two big ones that I'm like, can't get to the end of the year without doing that. Have to do those. But if I can up other things too, I definitely want to make jams and jellies, the basics, and whatever else. I'm just going to get canning. So I'm so excited. I'd like to buy more in bulk this year. The reason I haven't really done that is, like I've said, very small apartment where I am, and there really isn't room here, truthfully, for buying things in bulk. But like I've said, I'm getting space given to me by my mother. We're going to share that, obviously, so she will also get the food benefits from that. So that's just lovely, and I think I've mentioned this in other videos, but you know, not everybody is as lucky as I am to have people who are willing to help them out, and that is completely understandable. but you know, maybe you are somebody who would have that, and I just want you to feel like you don't have to be discouraged if you have lack of space yourself or lack of resources, it seems like, because there is alternatives. There is alternative solutions to those problems. You don't have to just wait for the bigger house, for the house with the pantry, for whatever it may be. There can be alternatives, and maybe it's not the same alternative as my alternative, and I don't want to ever just make it seem like it's so easy, because everybody's in different circumstances, of course, but just know that things aren't black and white. I'm always some solution to a problem. I really believe that there's always something you can do to change things even a little bit. So just think about that when you're going into your new year, that no matter what circumstance you are in, it has the opportunity to change, and for the better. So I will leave you with that on that one. I'd like to start buying meat by bigger quantities. So by that I mean like a half cow. My almost father-in-law already does that to some extent. He buys a whole pig, and so me and my partner get to eat off of that, and so I'm kind of familiar with how that goes. But so me myself, I do already buy my meat from a local source, so any meat that hasn't, like I've said, been hunted, because I've been eating a lot of that and a lot off of this pig that my almost father-in-law has, so we haven't had to buy meat pretty much at all. But for this next year, when we do have to buy some meat, I would like to buy more quantities, more whole chickens from some source, and like I said, half a steer or something like that, just to be able to fill those freezers in that way, since I'm not producing meat, obviously, on my property. So just ways to buy that in bulk as well, I guess, for the better quality, you know, from a local farmer, not being shipped from New Zealand or wherever, and for that better price overall as well, because you're getting that whole thing, and for that ability to cook all those different cuts, because sometimes I think people, and me too, have a tendency to just buy the same kind of cut over and over, and not only does that not expand your knowledge, but you know, you get too much in a rhythm, you gotta start eating the same things over and over, and different cuts have different nutrients in them as well. I would love to try to start using organ meats and stuff more, because I know how good those can be for you. A little challenging, not too challenging for me. I feel like I could figure out a way to do it. I have a very picky partner, however, don't know if he'll do that, but we'll see if I can convince him. So maybe that can be another goal for the new year as well. Speaking of meat, I really want to learn how to hunt this year. I think I've mentioned already, I did not grow up in a hunting home at all, not even a little bit. Firearms, honestly, were something that made me very, very nervous thinking about. But since I have gone kind of on this self-reliant homestead type journey for years now, I've really, wanted to look into them more. So this led me to take my state's hunting course, the course you have to take first before you can apply for a hunting license. And doing this, I really formed such a better understanding around firearms and the culture that they should have. Of course, with everything, there's people who are just dumb for multitudes of reasons, but that doesn't have to be put on firearms and that community as a whole. And so I've learned a lot. I have still yet to operate one, but that is my goal, is to learn how to safely operate and feel like I have a very good shot, and then also start hunting so that I can put food up in my home and do it in a way that is probably the most to roots, one of the most to your roots of humans long before that you can still do. So that's a goal of mine. Next, I am very excited to say that I am taking a beekeeping course, and that is going to start in the middle of January. I have gotten so interested in bees just these past couple months. I've always loved bees, but that wasn't ever at the top of my list for a homestead, my homesteading goals. I've thought about it, but I've always been like either, oh yeah, that'd be cool, but it's not like my number one priority. And I don't know what it was that, made me just get super, super interested. And I was like, I could do this. Like, maybe I could even start doing this on the piece of land that I am being used for my garden right now. Like, I could do this soon. And, because there's more to it than just the honey aspect. I think a lot of people who do get into it because of the honey or the beeswax or both. And that's kind of why I think it was near the bottom of my list, because I was like, I love honey, but I don't use a whole bunch. Like, there's other things that are a bigger priority to me, like milk and eggs and fruits and vegetables. However, it's not just about that. It's our pollinators, and that makes our garden better, and it makes the world better. They're so cool. They're so interesting, and I've just been on such a binge of beekeeping videos. I was for like a couple months, and I just so happened, it's so funny, I've been on this binge, and then my local community center posts on Facebook that they're going to start a beekeeping 101 course that you can sign up for coming January. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, it just felt meant to be. So I didn't even realize that's a pun, meant to be. Oh, I'm so not funny. But it really was. It was one of those, this is what's supposed to happen moments. And so I'm very excited to take that and to learn more, and because you can learn so much online, and that's one of the reasons that I do have such a great appreciation for the internet, even with all of its negatives that also come with it, that you can learn so much. But learning in person from somebody where you're there, you're present, you can be hands-on, you can ask questions right there, take notes right there. It's a different kind of learning, so I'm very excited for that opportunity. And the last thing on my kind of goals for 2023 list that I came up with is always, it's just slowing down and appreciating what I have now and putting my mind towards just saving. I've always been a big saver. I've always been very, like, penny pincher. Like, don't let any money go at all. But that's been very hard this past year. There's been a lot of circumstances that have made it so I haven't been able to really save. But this year, that is my big goal, is saving towards, hopefully, and I'm very optimistic about it, but hopefully in not too many years, maybe just a few years, saving so that we will be able to have a down payment for a property that then will help me progress this journey even more, and it'll be so exciting. And I'm just looking at it like an excitement, not like something that I have to be sad that I'm not there yet, but just something that is going to be. And I'm looking at it like it is going to be, not it might be, but it is going to happen. And so those are my goals for 2023. So I hope you've enjoyed sitting down and having this little chat with me. I do hope that me talking about my experiences and my journey can be something that is inspiring to you on your journey and for your future experiences. That is my biggest hope for doing this. And I just like to say I'm 24, and to some that may be very young, to others that may seem older. I've always, ever since I was little, just felt this need to do more, and I'm not sure why. I always joke that I had my first midlife crisis when I was 10, which sounds awful, but I've always felt this need to do more and more, and that I want to do so much, and that I feel like I don't have enough time. And that's one of the biggest reasons I try to push this slowing down type of way of thinking, because it's not that you don't have enough time, it's just that everything feels so rushed. And when you realize that you don't have to rush, that it's not about getting somewhere specific, it's about the feeling you have throughout life, then that really helps put you at ease, because no matter what you might have, you could inherit $1 million and not feel the way you want to feel. Just no matter what you have, if the mindset is not there, then it doesn't really matter. It doesn't fulfill what you're thinking it will. And so that's just kind of a little tidbit for my brain. But so, like I was saying, I'm 24 now. Sometimes I get sad because I'm like, oh, I feel like I wish I felt like I was in a place to start a family already, or I wish that I had the property so that I could have different animals already. But it's not about that. It's not about the having things. It's about staying focused on why you want any of those things to begin with, and having the right mindset, and doing what you can with what you have, and knowing that if you stick with that, then everything will be okay. So I do hope, like I was saying, that has been helpful to you, and I'm glad we've had this chat, and I do hope to see you in the next video. So stay tuned, and I will talk to you then. Okay, see you soon.